Welcome, everyone, to the Omniverse of Nick, and part one of two to my next story. What if Gordon Ramsay was Negan's cook? Now, this one's going to be a two parter and a very hilarious and interesting tale. So, hope you guys will definitely enjoy this two-part story. But like always, before we get into today's episode, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick channel, and further acknowledge the Omniverse of Nick by commenting future expectations and what if ideas in the comment section, as well as supporting the Discord, Patreon, and checking out the Google Doc, all linked on my homepage. So, with all that said, let's get into today's tale. So, the story is, what if Gordon Ramsay was Negan's cook? As I said, this is going to be a two-parter, and I'm sure you guys, from the prospect alone of fans of like Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay, The Walking Dead, and Negan's character, you guys can probably tell right away that this is going to be almost solely for comedy more than how Gordon's actually involved in The Walking Dead. But trust me, by the end of the story especially, you'll understand that Gordon actually plays a crucial role in being Negan's cook and coming across the Walking Dead cast in the first place. So, yeah. Right away, I just want to touch upon the fact that if you really look at it from a realistic sense, Gordon Ramsay and Negan would absolutely not tolerate each other. And honestly, I thought at first about one of two things. Either one, making that happen and just saying like they would just both kill each other or something like that, or one would kill the other, or like Negan would kill Gordon for his attitude because he would have Lucille, or number two, they would get as far as the sanctuary and then Gordon would just like poison his food or something. But I did not want to go about it like that, since the idea to me was so freaking funny and unique that if I had done one or both of those ideas, this wouldn't have made it into a two-parter, and I wouldn't have had fun diving into the hilarious interactions and stuff between these two characters. Because especially if you people have seen the movie Rampage, where Dwayne Johnson starred with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, it was basically like, what if The Rock met Negan? So it just made me think more and more about doing this. So here we finally are after a good long wait for this story. So let's dive in. We open up at a very deserted, rundown, damaged, and completely empty kitchen. This kitchen, mind you, is Gordon Ramsay's own kitchen. But sadly, he's all alone. No family, no kids, no nothing. He doesn't have anything because his family was lost to him at the beginning of the apocalypse. So he has been sitting in this kitchen for God knows how long since this started, surviving on his own barely and making what he does best. He cooks to keep himself alive with whatever he can find. And since he's a master chef, that would not be hard, literally. So, but the cooking just gives him a further reminder of the life that he once had. And it honestly leads him into a deep depression. And one day he thinks about just ending it. When all of a sudden, at his door, he hears 3 taps on his door. And a man from outside shouting, little pig, let me in." And I think that that would be a great way to introduce Negan, if you guys remember him doing that at Alexandria. And I hope you guys like the picture also. It's very freaking funny and cool that that would be his introduction. Because he knows someone has to be in there. And soon enough, Negan and his men just let their way in. Gordon Ramsay instantly yells at this person, calling him a broccoli boiled wanker and telling him to get the F out, except it wouldn't be F, we would obviously be cussing. But Negan is just very, very surprised, for one thing, that someone's actually in here, and number two, that he just straight up insulted Negan to his face. And it was not a bad insult either. Negan has to give him credit and asks him, since you're all on your own here, Mr. Potty Mouth, why don't you join me and my men here? Seems like you could do with a home, since this home's basically like a rat's nest. But Gordon Ramsay just gets straight up in Negan's face and tells him he's not buying what he's selling, and he can take his leather jacket, his barbed wire bat, and his little minions over there, or whatever he calls his men, and gets out of his kitchen and his house right now. And Negan's just, perturbed for one thing, and kind of surprised that no one's ever really, yes, so far he's just getting into the savior phase, and no one's really not wanted his help. But this guy, he's something else. So he just calms himself and reaffirms his desire here. And he just smiles and says that you'd be best to take my offer sooner rather than later. After all, what more could you do? And Gordon Ramsay just cuts him off, saying that, did I stutter? And that he wants him and his little band of merry men, along with his little Halloween costume getup that he's got going on there, and takes his little artifact bat, wraps it up in a nice big old ball, and gets out of his kitchen. Because he ain't playing. Yeah, and he really isn't. At this point, Gordon Ramsay has gotten up from his chair and is straight in front of Negan's face and just tells all of them to get out after insulting the absolute frick out of them. Now, Negan, on one hand, he could just Lucille this guy, because he has insulted him and his men several times, called out his bat, which is very personal to him, especially, this close to when he lost Lucille, and just be done with it. But on another hand, he knows how important it is to save people and what he's trying to build. So he just calms himself down again and just laughs. And at this point, Gordon Ramsay's getting very irritated and just wonders, usually he thought that whenever he insulted someone or, pushed them away, all those years in his life, it has worked until this guy. This guy's just straight up taking it. And he's not even fazed. But he could tell that clearly some of those insults have fazed him. But he doesn't really care, because remember, Gordon has no family and no life. So he doesn't want these people who he has no idea who they are infecting what he has left of his life, after he was literally just about to take it. But Negan just smiles, and he tries again. But this time, he makes an appealing case. He says that he can clearly tell that this guy is a cook, and it seems like a really good one. To be alive all this time, to have signs of a life, to have plates on his table, to be sitting at a kitchen table, for crying out loud. And, of course, he doesn't know who Gordon Ramsay is, although I feel that maybe Negan would know who Gordon Ramsay is. But I honestly think that for the sake of both of them meeting, it's best for neither one to know who each other is. So, he can just tell from looking around at the house, the kitchen, the table, that this guy's a cook. And it seems like a really good one. So, he's willing to make this guy an offer. He says that he is still going to let Gordon, well, he doesn't know his name yet unless Gordon told him, he is willing to let this guy still join their group, even though he has refused and insulted them multiple times, and him on a more personal level. But he's willing to look past that on one condition. Gordon Ramsay can cook for them and find a purpose in his life, and all he has to do is just come along and just follow a few very simple rules. And honestly, as long as he cooks for the saviors and his people, he'll leave him alone just like he's doing right now, or as he's been left alone for all this time. And he thinks that this is a really good deal and thinks that Gordon should really take him up on this, because it seemed like he had nothing here. And does he really want to live with that until he eventually starves? Or would he rather make food not only for himself, but help the people in this time of crisis? And Gordon does admit that this guy's right, and actually makes a really good point. But even though he's still very, very much upset that Negan impacted his life, he's willing to, after a moment, accept this offer. And he smiles, saying that you just made the right choice there, mate. But I'll only join on one condition. I ain't your little minion or your lackey or your little yes men like your little band of smurfs you got going on back there. I cook for me and everyone else without being told to. And if that's the case, I'm coming right back here and I'm leaving. And Negan says that, sure, for now at least, because he says this to himself, because at some point Negan will want to break him and make him say, who are you, and all that stuff. So for now he just says, okay. And Negan agrees to this plan, and they have a deal. Because, frankly, it took just 5-10 minutes to even get Gordon to even want to. So this was the hardest point for Negan so far for someone to join his group. So, they both have a deal. And soon enough, Gordon, Negan, and the Saviors arrive at the sanctuary. And once Gordon gets a good look at it, he just laughs, saying that this is your little base here. This is your home. This is where I'm going to be cooking food at. Talk about your fixer-upper. Negan just looks at Gordon like, the balls on this dude. But he says that the place wasn't exactly in the best shape when he came here either. And they did just make this place their own, or he did rather, not that long ago. But who's to say they can't fortify upon it? And Gordon's like, whatever, mate. Just get me in, get me certified to your little office, and let's get this thing going. And Gordon means business, and Negan likes that. So they go inside the sanctuary. At the table where the saviors would have their meetings, Negan stands above them all, with Gordon and the Croat and all the other main savior leaders, Simon, Gavin, Regina, all of them, including the Croat and Gordon, are there for Negan to make an important announcement. Alongside eventually finding more people to save and fortifying upon the sanctuary, he raises his bat and then lowers it to Gordon and introduces him, after he says his name finally, to the rest of the saviors, and says that this guy, Gordon Ramsay, whatever, is going to be the new cook for the sanctuary. And it seemed like from when he was on his own, he was a really good one. So this will put the saviors at a really high level of demand, because it will make his men want to work more, because their kitchen wasn't exactly the best. So yeah, this is definitely a huge upgrade. Gordon just looks at him like, kind of like, really, dude? And he's just like smiling to the rest of the men, but says that he ain't someone to be pushed around even by this guy here. Negan, leader, and all this other We Are Negan stuff. Gordon says that Just because he's helping them cook doesn't make him a little yes man who can do anything or, obey them for every single little thing. He's cooking and being here for himself and himself only. And he guesses to cook for all these other wankers in this little sanctuary. He's very perturbed and finds this very amusing, and honestly has been the most that he's seen since this all started. So that's why he's more or less just going along with it. So Negan, the Croat, and Simon. Negan begins to see faults in the Croat, but Negan and Simon start talking, and Simon affirms that not only is the Croat showing signs of being, off the rails crazy, but this guy Gordon has the actual nerve to stand up to Negan, and he thinks that Negan should do something about this. Because, yeah, he might be able to cook for their men, but how long does Negan think that will last before Gordon either leaves or tries to, I don't know, poison his food or hurt the sanctuary even more? Just listen to his mouth. And Negan says it's nothing that he hasn't heard before. And yeah, some of his insults were pretty clever, and he actually likes Gordon for that. And he has a sense of demand and moving ahead of the program. So, Gordon gets to stay, unless Simon has a problem with that. After all, having a cook here, and a really good one, could help the morale and boost the confidence of his men, including Simon. Who knows? It might actually make the sanctuary even stronger. So Simon just shuts his mouth and just lets it play out. Meanwhile, in the kitchen itself, or literally what was just, like a den, not even like a full-fledged kitchen, if you guys remember that, of the sanctuary, Gordon is absolutely beside himself and furious what he's looking at. It literally looks like a rat's nest, a crack den. It looks like something that you would see in an abandoned building. And he just can't believe what he is looking at. He's so exasperated and beside himself, he just starts cussing up a storm, calling everybody a bunch of white-felled rats, and just absolutely tearing into the saviors and demanding a new kitchen be built at once. And soon enough, at the kind of behest of Negan, because he would even be surprised by this, Gordon Ramsay starts instructing saviors to build a actual kitchen in that part of where the little den kitchen of the sanctuary was. And yeah, this wasn't exactly something that Negan liked per se, because it wasn't his degree or order, but he does agree that he did tell Gordon Ramsay that he would be in charge of a kitchen. He just didn't say how. So him being in charge of having his men build a kitchen, yeah, it is his men and he's supposed to give the orders. But if it's regarding just the kitchen and nothing else, like military command or, eventual like satellite outpost command, then he doesn't really care. So he just lets Gordon go about his business. And soon enough, an actual kitchen is built in the sanctuary. And yeah, Negan's a little beside himself about it, but he's not really making it too much of a big deal because he's got way too much on his plate right now. Speaking of plate, Simon is kind of angry at this because it wasn't Negan's order. And speaking of order, Gordon Ramsay just holds out a plate of food and shoves it in Simon's face, practically demanding that he eats it, and then maybe that'll shut his little gaping mouth. And yeah, Simon has to admit that the food is really good. So Negan and Simon pretty much just leave Gordon to his business and go about the move up of the sanctuary and going out to find communities to save and more people. So they just pretty much let Gordon do his thing. Negan and the Croat go about the whole kingdom thing, and that pretty much plays out how you would expect. The Croat turns out to kill the girl from the kingdom, and this leads to Negan and Simon finding out, and then Negan shooting the Croat in the ear, missing, and then the Croat, vanishes off and we never see him again. Yeah, just because Gordon Ramsay's here doesn't mean that the Croat's still not gonna, be crazy and do all that stuff. In the governor story, it was way different because the governor and the Croat were a lot alike. But Gordon, he's just a freaking cook. I can't really pair him and the Croat together. Meanwhile, Gavin and Jared and those dudes go to the kingdom, and actually, after that whole Croat and the girl thing, they affirm that they are the ones who will look after the kingdom's supplies for the sanctuary. And Simon goes to the hilltop, and he takes up hold of Gregory and everybody there. And also, Simon and Arat, that whole Oceanside kids nonsense and everything like that, that goes the same too. And Negan meets up with Jadis and all the garbage people and learns a tiny little bit about the CRM, yet they never really learned much. Negan never said that he knew about the CRM, so that's just, you guys get the deal about what happened with those two. And at the sanctuary, the kitchen is looking amazing in the sanctuary, and it honestly looks like a brand new part of their home. And Gordon's got himself a few very good workers. He's got Laura, who was the first savior, who was there with Negan that day that they pulled him to this place in the first place. They have Justin, they have Paula, and Morales. Yes, I'm putting Morales here also. So the four of them, alongside a few maybe unnamed ones, not really important ones, are in charge of not only finishing the buildup of the kitchen, but helping to make the food. Because Gordon can't make all this by himself. He didn't really think that they thought that he could do this all by himself. And he tells everybody that when he was a cook, he would have people on the daily on many forms of kitchens and everything doing the work alongside him. So he charges these four and a few others to finish the buildup and begin making the food. And he'll do what he can, but don't expect everything from him. And Negan is very, very impressed. This guy single-handedly not only built a kitchen, but is actually trying to make a system in the kitchen. And it's really nice. And Negan is so impressed by this, he forgets to be mad that Gordon did all this without his permission. And he lets him go. But Negan does get a little bit angsty whenever Gordon starts insulting him about, going off and saving people, because he honestly is just giving him more people to either maybe turn on Negan with that bat and a whole gun situation and everything like that, and he's just making his kitchen even better. And says that if Negan really wanted to, instead of this whole bat gimmick and saving and all this violent action that they're all going on about, Negan could have become a cook. Negan tries to prove him wrong by making his spaghetti, which we all know that he loved talking about whenever he made it for Carl and then talked about Rick. And now fed him spaghetti. And he makes some, and Gordon just calls him out and says that is the worst spaghetti that he's ever looked at. It literally looks like just a pile of pasta was put in there, and then pure blood was put in to cover the sauce. He would say something akin to roasting the absolute frick out of Negan's spaghetti. And then Gordon would add insult to injury by making his own spaghetti. And once Negan tries this, You gotta admit, Negan would be very, very jealous because this spaghetti is absolutely delicious. And it honestly gets Negan to just shut his mouth. And yeah, that pretty much just shuts that whole situation down. Eventually, Dwight and Sherry and that whole Tina situation, that goes the exact same way with Negan and the whole wife thing. And then Negan hears from Paula and a few other saviors. Rumors have it going around that while the whole Dwight, Sherry, and Tina situation was going on, some people, they don't know who yet, have been killing, or some of their people have been going missing, like little Timmy and the you know what brigade. That group has gone missing along with several more of their men. And Negan charges Paula and a few of the saviors to station up at a satellite outpost to protect it and make sure that if those people show up there, especially Hilltop or whatever else, that they put them in their place. And now Gordon sees this and that Paula and a few of his workers are going away. And he asks, what's going on here? And Negan, he gets a little bit, uppity about this, but he's still in a really good mood. But he also doesn't like the fact that Gordon Ramsay basically outshined him whenever it came to cooking, insulted him on his cooking, and is now trying to get up in his business. And Gordon's like, he wants to know what's going on right now. And that he has already shown what much of a better cook he is. And he hopes that because of that, Negan hasn't broken his word and is now shafting his workers to do his little line-up square dance to find all of these people that he's supposedly saving. And that he wants his workers back now. Negan starts to get really angry, but he calms himself down, laughs, and says he's still got plenty of men left, and he would rather that Gordon not talk to him like that again. And with that, Negan just walks away. Simon begins to question Negan on this, saying that at this point, shouldn't they just kill Gordon and be done with it? Because even he cracks a little bit of a laugh that, Gordon outshined him with cooking. But Negan just gets angry, saying that you really act like you could have done any better? The guy's a one-man wrecking machine whenever it comes to the, cooking arts. And that we have much more important things to do about saving people, what this place is about. Let Gordon keep doing his own thing. But if he keeps running his mouth, then I think we'll finally have to put him in his place. And with that, Negan and Simon, they hear from a few other saviors that something has just went terribly wrong. Apparently, a man by the name of Rick Grimes has killed everybody at the satellite outpost that he had just sent his men to, along with a bunch of other band of people, and that supposedly they think that they've killed the real Negan. And they hear a little bit about Alexandria, and now that war is beginning to come into the fold. How will Rick Grimes and their group and everything else in the main story affect even more so with Gordon Ramsay's effect on the kitchen and the cooking and Negan's attitude? Could this lead to Negan killing more people at the lineup? Or could it lead to Gordon siding with Rick and their people just to get Negan out of the way, since the clash of attitudes is beginning to grow strong? Stay tuned for the finale and second parter of What If Gordon Ramsay Was Negan's Cook? Hello everyone, I'm Nick, and welcome to the Omniverse of Nick, and part 2, hashtag the finale to What If Gordon Ramsay Was Negan's Cook? Now, before we get into today's episode, be sure to acknowledge the Omniverse of Nick by smashing the like button, subbing to the channel, and commenting future expectations and what if suggestions in the comment section down below, as well as supporting the Discord, Patreon, and Google Doc on the homepage to support the future of the channel. With all that said, let's get into the finale / part 2 of this story. So, the last we left off, the group, Rick's group, has finally come in to this story, and Negan, Dwight, and Simon are preparing their separate plans to confront and halt the group's proceedings the same way we know that they did in canon, and the fact that Negan and Simon have to deal with a now about to be much more significant case and argument with Gordon Ramsay, who has been roped into losing people and saviors from his kitchen because of this conflict. So, just before they're about to leave, Gordon Ramsay confronts Negan. And he says that he has had absolutely enough. He has been playing along with Negan and this whole thing from day one. And sure, while he might have saved him, it's not like he wanted to be. Negan just gave him a place and said that he would leave him to it. But ever since, he's lost the people that are making his kitchen and this place stay standing in a very collective way. He's tearing apart what he said that he would build and make work. And now, Gordon Ramsay doesn't want to hear a word out of Negan's mouth except that he's sorry and he's going to give him his people back. Otherwise, he's fulfilled his obligation and he's leaving because he's had it up to here with Negan's bullcrap, and frankly thinks of him as just, a waste of not only a leader, but just a guy playing dress up with a leather jacket and decorating a baseball bat to make himself look strong when he's nothing but just a knockoff version of any horror movie villain. And he would say something along those lines, And Negan is just getting angry at this point. And then at this point, Negan's losing his marbles. And he yells at Gordon saying that you work for me. I brought you here and you are alive because of me. This kitchen is up and running because of me. You are here for me. It doesn't matter what you think, say, or what you think the deal was. Facts are facts, Gordy, my little friend. You are mine. Your kitchen, mine. And whether you want to admit it or else I have to make Lucille or my men straighten you the right way, you are Negan. Whether you want to say it now or you want to make me put you on your knees before we get on this group's, A-word about their whole deal, and then he smiles again, you better listen to me. Or else by the time that we return, you might be thinking a very different attitude. Or is losing a few men not important when we could save millions more? And Gordon's just still yelling at this point, saying that he doesn't care about what they do or saving. He doesn't care if Negan thinks he's his. He is here on his terms. And he says that he's not looking for a fight, but he's real close to making one happen if that's the way Negan wants it. And says that he gives him some more men in place of the ones he's lost, or he's done. He doesn't care what Negan thinks or the rule of the saviors is. He is here for him. And at this point, none of Negan's words have hit home to Simon that Negan's about to do something. So, Simon takes initiative into his own hands and tries to punch Gordon, but this is not the first time Gordon Ramsay has been struck, or almost struck. So he catches Simon's hand before he can even land the punch. But Negan and Dwight just get towards him, and Negan points his bat at Gordon, saying that whether you like it or not, you work for me. And this kitchen of yours, can all go away if I really wanted it to. But I prefer you cooking for my men. And losing men, I didn't ask to lose my men. I didn't ask for these people to kill my people. You should be thanking me that your kitchen's still around. And Gordon's about to snap back, but he just shuts his mouth, feeling like he's about to have something happen to him, even though he's not that afraid. But at this point, this argument is going nowhere. And he's just like, he's done at this point. He's not leaving, but he's not arguing anymore. And he just shuts up and says that if he gets more men to replace the ones he's lost, he'll keep this conversation at a low bar. But he's not letting Negan get off scot-free of taking away his people. Well, his people meaning like his people for the kitchen, not his actual people. But Negan, of course, takes that a little bit the wrong way, but just lets it go because there are more important things to do. So, Gordon might have at least a few men, but Negan doesn't supply much because the men have kept on dying because of this quote-unquote Rick Grimes guy in this group. So, the only main two that are left in the kitchen are Morales and Laura. And Gordon has snapped at them from time to time to get this kitchen in ship shape because the two of them, plus a few little unnamed knickknacks, are not enough to keep this kitchen going. And he's said it a million times. He can't do this himself. So either they step up their game or Negan's going to be very, very cross. And Morales is told at one point that he's going to have to go to a satellite outpost sooner or later. And Laura is trying to calm Gordon down since she knew Negan the longest and says that if he really wants this kitchen to succeed, he'll stop freaking out so much, especially to their superior. And Gordon says that he doesn't care about Negan or if he's freaking Santa Claus or Jesus. This is his kitchen, his price to pay, and his idea. So they're going to do what he says on his terms. And if they don't want to work harder, this kitchen's going to fall. And then where's the morale of the Saviors going to go? And for now, everything's just a mix mash of emotions thrown at the sanctuary. But things start to change up whenever Negan and Dwight and Simon and all the Saviors return. But they're down men again, even though they still have, bunches and bunches and bunches more. But Negan and Dwight and Simon and the Saviors don't return alone. They have a guy who Gordon does not recognize, and supposedly, this guy's name is Daryl Dixon, and he is in a prison uniform, and he was caged up for a while, but once he's brought in to talk with Dwight and Negan, and Dwight brings him in, Gordon is instructed to bring him a plate of food. So he does, but then he is instantly thrown out, so he doesn't get to figure out what's going on, which annoys him. And then it happens again whenever Carl attacks and kills a few of Negan's men. And Gordon, again, is instructed to bring him food, which is annoying Gordon at this point because he doesn't even get to figure out who the kid is. But apparently it's a kid of the leader or something? This Rick guy, he doesn't even get to know the story, nor does he kind of care, but at this point, it's impacting his kitchen and his rule at this place so much, Gordon can't help but feel very angry and cross that he's not getting in to more of this information. If they're going to bring him to the sanctuary, have him do all this stuff, cook and everything, the least that they could do is tell him what's going on here. And then it happens again. And this time, when a man by the name of Eugene Porter, who supposedly made a bullet to give to a girl who almost shot Negan but got his bat instead, at this point, Gordon can't help but start asking questions about all of what's going on, but nobody answers him. They all just push him aside and tell him to get back to the kitchen. But soon enough, when a girl by the name of Sasha attacks and kills some of the sanctuary people and is brought into a cell by Negan, at this point, whenever they're all outside and Sasha's about to enact her plan to put herself in the, you know, the casket, Gordon just straight up yells at everybody, saying that he wants answers and he wants them now. But at this point, yeah, Negan is just laughing at this point that Gordon has stuck up to him so much that he's willing to yell in front of his face and call him out like this. And Negan has held in his patience since the day they met. But at this point, he's not only made a fool of him, called him out on being a leader, a cook, and literally found any opportunity to question his leadership, not just about being in the kitchen like their agreement was, but he's disobeying Negan and not making it easy for him to turn into, Negan. That whole thing. So Negan just smiles and is like, he was fun while he lasted, and raises Lucille to kill Gordon. Gordon at this point's putting his hands up, kind of sarcastically and yet kind of afraid for his life. But Eugene steps in the way, saying that would not be logical, Negan. And he would tell Negan that supposedly if keeping a cook around, and a very good one, is a way to keep the operative of the Saviors still running, then the ones alive need that kind of boost. Otherwise, as Negan said himself, the morale will go down. And if the morale goes down, more people will die. So if anything, they should keep Gordon alive to keep everybody else alive, even though, obviously the more food they have, the better. But not only that, but to keep everyone's attitudes in check, because Gordon makes really freaking good food. But Negan's not all that convinced and is kind of annoyed that Eugene stepped in his way. But Eugene confirms that he is Negan and he's only trying to do and help Negan out. And he doesn't want to disobey him or anything, not after Negan saved his life after making the bullet. He originally thought that he was going to get tortured, but all he wants is to do right by the Saviors, and even if that's slightly stepping in Negan's way, then he'll do that if he must. But he's saying that if Negan allows it, he personally will be in charge of Gordon's attitude and will keep him in line. And Negan actually puts him, he would actually like to take Eugene up on this and see if Gordon actually listens to Eugene. So they go off and they go to Alexandria with Sasha in the casket, and Gordon, Ramsay, and Eugene and everybody else are left at the sanctuary to do whatever they'll be doing. And before Eugene leaves with Negan, he looks at Gordon, saying that now you're my responsibility. Best not to talk back to our superior, especially now that I've confirmed that I'm one with the superior. Gordon just laughs at this and says that he doesn't care and he shouldn't stick his nose into business that's not his. If Negan was going to kill him, he probably would have just either blocked the bat or just let himself die. And he says that he doesn't care how smart Eugene thinks he is, what role he's in, or anything else like that. And he points in Eugene's face as saying that next time you get in my business, don't think I won't cross into yours. So you could just leave me, my kitchen, and all your shite, because I can't say the actual word, out of your way and out of my business, or I'm going to make your business and mine very personal. And Eugene is not affected at all by this because it's not the first time he's been threatened. And Gordon is his responsibility. And he tells him this, that whether he likes it or not, their fates are intertwined. Either he keeps him in line or they both meet Lucille. And he wants Gordon to trust him when he says that if he saw what happened to him and his people, he wouldn't be talking like this. And with that, he leaves Gordon to stew on these thoughts until Negan and the Saviors return. A lot worse for wear and angry. And Negan goes out with everybody else and shouts to the Saviors that they're going to war. We then get to the episode where Negan is infuriated by Simon's plan about people and having them to be a resource and people are the foundation, and not agreeing with Simon's plan to kill everybody. And while this is going on and Gregory is in there, Gregory being the one who's trying to, side with the saviors and all that stuff, Gordon is outside the room, not allowed to be in, and is overhearing this entire conversation play out. Soon enough, he hears gunshots and the saviors running past him, and everybody guns firing, and he hears the argument from outside and everything like that. And at this point, Negan gets stuck with Gabriel, where they eventually talk and enact their plan of the Walker guts and getting out and back to their people, which would eventually get Gabriel sick. And the Saviors, meanwhile, are in the meeting room talking about what should happen now and the possibility that Negan's not going to return. But Gordon then steps in. His time and patience utterly ruined. He is tired of being put on the back foot of everything, and that he's signing himself up to be a part of this whole leader shtick right now. He is no longer a cook, and if Negan doesn't come back, he is going to be the one to be in charge, because he's tired of everyone treating him like he's a waste of space. And he's going to prove that if Negan doesn't return. And he would go on to make this speech about how he's been treated like an object more than an actually really good, not only cook, but person since he got here. And he now knows Negan's true intentions was to make him a slave, and that their deal was never going to last. But now that Negan might not return, that deal is no longer in place. So he feels like it's his opportune moment to show that these people were wrong for treating him like an object, and all that he wanted at first was to be left alone to die after he thought that, it was all over after his family died. But that's not important. They listen to him if Negan doesn't come back, which the Saviors start fighting until everyone's out in the halls and that whole thing goes down. But then Negan and Gabriel return. And that deal about all of what Gordon was talking about, yeah, that's not going to happen. So Negan affirms his status as the leader and that he is here to stay. And Gabriel is with Eugene making the bullets when it's revealed that Gabriel is sick from putting the Walker guts on him and is going blind. And while this is going on, Dwight and Negan are going about something while Gordon is in the room with them. And Gordon is just pointing at all of the saviors, including Simon, saying that he's now might not be a leader with Negan back, and even admits half the crap that he said because he's not afraid of Negan anymore. But that doesn't mean that he is getting to be treated like an object or a not so important person anymore. And if Negan says or tries to kill him again, their deal is completely off now that he knows that it was bogus. And Simon at this point is starting to see cracks in the plan of bringing this guy to be a cook for the saviors. But Dwight, thinking to himself, has a plan. And soon enough, he gets to enact it. You see, whenever Dwight realizes what Eugene's about to do, diverting the horde away with the remote and everything, and that whole thing went down and Eugene still did it even though Dwight had his gun to him and everything like that, Gordon is there because Dwight would have seen that Gordon was the best possible option to help him inside the whole sanctum of the sanctuary to bring down Negan and the saviors from inside. And he knew about Daryl and Tara's plan. So he knew that Gordon would agree with it. And he did, because Gordon's tired of this place and Negan at this point. So just before Eugene can get his hand to use the remote to diverge the horde away, Gordon has a plate of spaghetti sauce in his hand. And this is hot spaghetti sauce, mind you. So He grabs the spaghetti sauce from behind Eugene where he can't see him while Dwight is on one side, and he throws the plate of spaghetti sauce straight into Eugene's face. He basically slams it into Eugene's face. And this is hot spaghetti sauce, so this would burn Eugene's face. And after that, Gordon and Dwight know that whatever Daryl and Tara's next move is, they're going to not want to stick around if walkers and explosions start, destroying the entire sanctuary. They need to get out of here now. And they start booking it out of the sanctuary down the halls. But Negan is there, and he should have known that this was their plan. Dwight was one thing, but Gordon, he knew that. So, while they're running, he steps in front of them, surprising them both, and prepares to loose seal Gordon and then Dwight for their betrayal, and that they just pretty much doomed him and the Saviors to die. But Gordon stops him by throwing a plate of spaghetti straight at Negan's face, and this would less burn him because there'd be less sauce on it, but yeah, it would literally be like punched in his face while they're running. So Negan doesn't even get the chance to hit anyone with the bat. They're literally running past him while the plate of spaghetti is being pushed into his face after they run past him. So yeah, it's sort of like an all in the moment sort of thing. Negan is blinded enough to be stunned for the moment by the spaghetti all over his face and the fact that it allows Gordon and Dwight to get away the second that Daryl and Tara successfully enact their plan and sabotage the sanctuary and everything else from within, causing walkers and explosions to kill every single person at the sanctuary. And this time, the plan actually works, ending the tale. And I'll explain more here in a second why that is. After that, Gordon Ramsay, along with Dwight, would escape the sanctuary as every single savior dies within it. Simon, he would actually get to kill Negan before all of them would fall to their demise, getting what he wanted in the end, thanks to Gordon Ramsay. So even though he couldn't stand Gordon ultimately meant that Simon would carry out his wish, but he wouldn't get to rule the saviors, nor would there be any savior left for the remainder of the story. What about the rest of the story, you might ask? Well, Rick and Jadis and their group would come along. Rick horrified to see all the saviors dead and just a cook and Dwight left. No Eugene, no Negan, no Simon. But they would be able to rescue Gabriel and Dr. Carson, but it would be tough. It would be very tough. The good thing about it is that since Gabriel and Dr. Carson were at a different part of the sanctuary, they would actually be spared from a good part of the chaos. Because honestly, in any other situation, especially one this close, Gabriel would actually die in this story. And I wanted to do a different ending for this. Gordon appearing at the end alongside Rick and then just portraying him alongside Eugene. But once I got to this part, I realized that Gordon, at this point, he would be done with Negan. He would have tolerated him so much by this point that he would have just been done. So Dwight and him teaming up to do this actually makes sense. And after that, the rest of the story, without Negan, Gordon would join the group, finding a new purpose, seeing that he should have been with people this entire time, and that trusting the wrong side is what, ironically, got him to save the good side, question mark? He really never bothered to care about any of this, especially after what happened so long ago, it seems. But now that everything like this has happened, he sees himself a new purpose. But this has all not come without a cost. There's no Eugene, so that's a huge loss, and the group is heartbroken at this. but they know that Eugene made his choice. And whether he wanted to or not, he betrayed them. So in this timeline, he doesn't get to redeem himself for that. So that's honestly really sad. And it would be like my what if Negan won the war thing, except, Eugene, a lot of different stuff, more or less. The second thing is, Jadis would not tell anyone about or go to the CRM or do any of that stuff because her people would still be alive. Now, there is the possibility that Simon could have always survived, maybe joined the group and survived getting out of there, but with all of this happening and just all the conflict and everything, I'm pretty sure it's better left that he's just left dead. And honestly, killing Negan and doing all that stuff, that's the best that ironically I think he could get out of the situation. And I honestly think that Gordon Ramsay, and as you can see in the picture, which by the way is not mine, you can also see that I chose a picture of him swapped out for Negan's face with Lucille. Because I feel at this point, Gordon would have saw how much Lucille meant to Negan, so after throwing the plate of spaghetti, ironic, I think he would honestly steal Lucille as kind of a souvenir. And with spaghetti in his face, there's not too much he could do in that situation, so Gordon and Dwight would honestly get out of there before Negan could try and get his bat back. So he would die with the rest of his men in the sanctuary, even if there were kids and everything. I mean, it is sad, but ironically, this would have happened had, Eugene not been able to diverge the horde away. Every one of the saviors would have pretty much died, bar it maybe an extra few, or like maybe a little less few or something like that. Also, with no Negan and no Eugene, and also Dwight possibly leaving still because of Daryl and everything like that, I still feel that Daryl and Tara would never forgive Dwight, and they would honestly think about killing him. But with Dwight begging for forgiveness, I feel that he would still be sent to fear regardless, because Tara would also see the mercy, and this would be the first real sense she gets. And honestly, I think that's much better than Dwight dying here, especially since he kind of did more with help from Gordon. And after that, Gordon would become a cook, ironically, for the entirety of all the communities, and would actually pitch in a little bit of fighting. And Lucille would be his souvenir, because he would want to remember that he single-handedly saved this group from Negan. So really, when you really think about it, Rick and the group are actually endeared to him. And I know what you're thinking. What about Carl? Well, unfortunately, he still dies. He would still get bit. There's no way I can reverse that. So, yes, he would still die, and he would be insanely angry. The fact that Negan died, but it wasn't his dad. And it wasn't truly Daryl or Tara. It was really just a cluster of everything at once. So, even in his dying breaths, he would still tell his father to remember him and for Gordon to keep the memory of Negan alive. At least the part of him that he thought he knew that wasn't evil. Because Carl still wants something to be remembered in his time of passing, and that the world is more than just everyone turning against each other. Although it wouldn't hit as deep here since Negan is dead. So Carl's death would actually be demeaned here, which I really don't like. Carl's character was very complex as a whole because of Lori, Shane, and just him being stupid. But his death would still mean a great amount here. It just wouldn't mean as much because of Negan's death. So I really don't see too much about him. Like, he would not send any of the letters except for the people he sent them to before, and it would be totally different. Or he would send the same letters and they would be useless because, Negan's dead. So it'd kind of be a waste of time in his last moments if you really, really think about it. The kingdom would be spared of total destruction and would actually thrive past its original outing. So that would be a really good thing. And with no Negan or Eugene, this means quite a bit. Gordon would honestly take the standing point of Negan and actually do way better, if I'm being real. And even though there's no Eugene, the Whisperers would still be found out. Rick, I think, would still shoot the bridge because without the Saviors, the bridge would actually be much harder to build. So this means that Rick would still shoot the bridge and he would still go off to the CRM. So it literally, from this moment on, almost the entire rest of the story is the complete same. Bar it, the kingdom's still around. There's no Negan. Jadis's group would be around. Her people probably dying later, and then herself getting killed by like Michonne, Daryl, or maybe Gordon or something like that, trying to trade someone to the CRM. And if Rick did shoot the bridge and something like that, I can maybe see Jadis trading him for that. And maybe her people getting killed at some later point for like the help of the Saviors or something like that. Or maybe like Maggie and everybody else not really like trusting Jadis's people, so they kill everyone like but her, and then she begs for her life or something. I think that it's honestly best that Jadis still goes and takes Rick to the CRM to really be real here, to finish off this story. And then for the Whisperers, that would honestly go the exact same. Bar it, Gordon honestly takes the place of Negan and would be much better at killing Alpha, considering Lucille and, like, you know, his expertise, and his snarky tone would actually like resonate with Beta, and he was much more sassy and angry than the likes of Negan. So I could think of him being like a comic Negan counterpart to whenever he was in there with Beta and the Whisperers. So it would honestly fit those situations really good. And then we would still obviously know Negan's backstory, so there's no need in dishing out that. And yeah, like I said, the rest of this story would honestly go the exact same way. There's not too much I can say. All I can say is that Dead City would not happen. And the two other spin-offs obviously would happen. The Daryl Dixon one to go find Rick, the Ones Who Live to go find Rick, and yeah, that's kind of it. As for the Croat and Dama, you might ask, I think a spin-off would still happen, but I think that it would revolve Maggie with another character. Like, I don't know, maybe Rosita actually gets to live in this story, and she goes with Maggie, even though her actor, wanted to be killed and did not want to be part of the spin-offs. Or maybe it's someone like Aaron, or someone like that. I still feel like the Dama and Croat storyline would take place. I think Gordon would honestly be fit for it, since he was around for the Croat. So I think that it would actually make for a much better Dead City opening for Gordon going with Maggie, even though, Dead City Season 2 is coming out within a month from this moment of this recording. Anyways, with all that said, I don't really think there's too much else to talk about. I tried to put this all into two parts, trying to put as much funny stuff as I could into one, and I had several ways that I tried to go about this. Number one, Gordon Ramsay poisons the food and then just takes over or something like that. Or gets himself killed, and then Simon takes over, and then it's like, what if Simon killed Negan? Or Negan kills Gordon Ramsay at some point because of his mouth, which definitely came close a lot of times. It took everything of me to try to find a logical situation where he didn't kill him. So that was a thing. I honestly thought of making this an analyze video, like I've done with others. And there's plenty more of those where others have come from. But I wanted to actually do something here, since the prospect of Gordon Ramsay and Negan's personalities and characters, just like The Rock and Jeffrey Dean's, if you ever saw the movie Rampage, and they were in that movie and starred together, I think the only movie they did. And their personalities clashed so well together, it honestly sounded like The Rock could have easily killed Negan if he'd given the chance in The Walking Dead, if The Rock ever went in it, which we know obviously most likely is never going to happen. But hey, never count your stones before they are thrown. Whatever you say. Anyways, yeah, honestly, those were two outings that I had thought about. And then I thought about Gordon betraying Negan with Eugene at the very, very end. But like I said, once I got to this point, I'm like, oh yeah, this would actually make sense. Because by now, Gordon would have grown so tired of Negan, and Negan would have grown so tired of Gordon. So it honestly made for the perfect opportunity. Because given any longer, they would have killed each other, or worse. So, to make it a really cool, funny, and wrapped up kind of ending, and put it into an explanation here, this is honestly the route that I chose to go. But I hope you guys truly enjoyed this sort of funny take at this. I never expected to include Gordon Ramsay in a What If before. I'd only barely known about the guy before I looked up into this prospect. And then I started getting into Hell's Kitchen and his character. I'm just like, ah, I'm so glad that I did this. So, hope you guys enjoyed this two-part special. It's definitely something. It's not like one of those stories that I could call one of the best, but it's definitely one of those stories that's probably one of the funniest. I bet you guys can definitely agree with that. But I hope you guys enjoyed. The next story is the Cybermen one. Now, that's already pre-made 2 years ago, just like several other Dragon Ball projects were. My Nom one, my Garen one, my Tarbal one, every Dragon Ball story has been pre-made so far. The Cybermen one and What If Frieza Turned Good are the only two left from 2 years ago that I've yet to put on this channel. So, the Cybermen one is next. Now, I'm not going to include Dragon Ball Daima, and I'm going to explain more on that in the finale, which I'm going to be literally pre-recording after this. And you'll understand more whenever I do it for you Dragon Ball fans. And after that, Stu and Boromir, and then I'm going to be taking a break from the time of pre-recording this. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for the Cybermen Turn Good video. And remember to acknowledge the Omniverse of Nick channel by smashing the like button, subbing to the channel, commenting all future requests and expectations for the year 2025, and checking out the Patreon, Discord, and all other platforms in the description to help out the future of this channel, and so much more to come. And I'll see you guys later.